So I'm up here with a rental Malibu in Chicago. I actually have decided that I really like this thing more than I was expecting to, so I figured I would stop for a few minutes and kind of give it its due. It's an economy car, mid-size, compact, whatever you want to call it. The thing with these is they're pretty much always built out of the same stuff, you know, 4-cylinder engine, they're all about the same size and so forth. You know, what it really comes down to is how well put together they are in more ways than one. And I have to say, I've taken a liking to this thing pretty quick. And I've driven a lot of cars of about this class for work this year. I've driven a Camry, I've driven a Fusion, I've driven a Kia of some kind, a Sentra. And the thing about this car that I really like is the driving position. This car has incredibly good ergonomics, actually. It's got a great driving position. It's got great visibility. So like compared to the Fusion, every time I would have to tap the little hotel thing, to get in and out of the gates of the hotel, it was a pain just trying to like get close enough to the thing and not hit the curb. This car has excellent sight lines. I'm never afraid of hitting a curb. It's really easy to park this thing. Just a lot of visibility, really low dashboard. Just a really easy car to see out of. The gauge cluster is nicely placed. Just all the ergonomics are good. The seats are really good. The seating position is really good because it's really airy. You can see you've got a lot of glass space, and the thigh supports are kind of high up, and you've got a lot of thigh support in this car, which for me, that's always a sticking point with any kind of a sedan because I have really long legs. So I don't normally fit in cars very easily, especially not like a compact sedan like this. This car, the fact that I'm able to fit so easily in here and have good legroom and thigh support makes a huge difference. Steering wheel is nice. The steering wheel just feels nice in your hand. Even these little buttons here, these buttons feel really punchy, like they've got a lot of travel to them. They've got a lot of feel to them. That's kind of nice. A lot of newer car controls do not have a lot of feel to them. I like the gauge cluster. As a matter of fact, start it up real quick, or I don't know. There we go. I like the gauge cluster. It's nice, it's clean. You can always tell a lot about the character of a car in its gauge cluster. There's a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of GM in this gauge cluster, even like old classic GM, that kind of teal, blue, green glow that the cluster has. And even the font, actually, the font is very GM. This whole car, you know, back when I was a kid, the rental car du jour was like the Grand Am, maybe the Chevy Malibu, which this is. But this is really the spiritual predecessor of something like the Grand Am from the 90s and early 2000s. Those cars were never that great. This car really feels like a much better attempt to be what those cars were always attempting to be. Another thing, the gear shifts actually is a gear shift. You know, what a concept. So, you know, it's a mechanical gear lever. You can feel it go back and forth. It actually feels really nice in your hand. You know, it's not leather or anything, but this is a really nice rubberized coating. It's a really nice shape, and it feels really, you can feel it clunking through the gears, which is kind of nice. Another thing, like that Ford Fusion that they gave me originally where the battery kept dying in it, that was a little dial-o-meter kind of transmission shift. So of course, when this thing dies on you in the parking lot and you need to shift it into neutral to roll it backwards so you can jump it off, you can't shift it into neutral because the gears are operated by dial. Pardon my French, but not even really, Ford. So yeah, that's why you actually need a mechanical gear shift in a car. It makes sense. It's a mechanical object. You want the things to be mechanical. Well, you do not have a actual key, which I don't love. You have a push to start, but that's whatever. It's kind of the way it goes. You do have engine start stop in this. Again, not really thrilled with that because it shuts off at stoplights. You don't really notice it, but the Ford Fusion actually didn't do that. That was kind of nice about the Fusion. With that, you kind of have to be cognizant of it in this car because this car will shut off on you at a stoplight. And then it's like, okay, so when the light turns green, there's a whole process where you take your foot off the gas and you wait for the car to wake up. And then once you've kind of confirmed that it's woken up and the tach has kind of come up a little bit, then you can put your foot on the gas and have it not kind of chug and give you a hard time. If a light turns green and your foot goes straight from the brake to the gas in this thing, it will chug, it will stumble. It does not. It's such a piece of shit. This whole start-stop system, I really am not about it, but that's kind of the way things are going. As far as the engine in this car, the engine is a 4-cylinder of some kind. It's probably not turbo. I don't know or care. It's a 4-cylinder. It's not like a 90s Honda beautiful 4-cylinder. It's just a 4-cylinder. It kind of sounds and it growls like a diseased badger or possum. Pick your roadkill animal of choice. That's what this thing sounds like. It's not inspiring, but that's why you have a radio. The radio, actually, believe it or not, this radio, it's kind of like a lot of this car. It's clearly made out of cheap bullshit, but it's well enough put together that it actually works. It's kind of like, you know, like real audiophiles always say, oh, Bose isn't really like good sound equipment. But to the average ear, it sounds pretty good. This stereo is kind of like that, to where like I can tell it's not actually like hi-fi, it's not actually like good equipment, but it sounds pretty good going down the road. You got nice armrests, you got a couple of nice cup holders, but the thing is, again, just the visibility and the ergonomics and the seating position. This thing is so easy to park. It's just so easy to handle around town. I can see out of it really easily. I know exactly where all the corners of the car are. That's so different to me from most of these rental cars that I've experienced. Most modern cars at all that I've experienced in the past, I don't know, 5 years, just are not like that. Typically, you feel like you're down in some kind of a cave and the car is kind of up around you and it's hard to see out of and it's hard to park and all that kind of a stuff. So yeah, I have to say, I've really come to respect this thing. It's only got 9,000 miles on it, so it's pretty fresh. And it's like with a lot of things in life, once you gain an appreciation for something, it starts to almost even become more physically attractive to you. I never would have thought that I would have cared about the looks of this car, but the more I get to like it, the more I'm like, you know what? That's really not a bad looking car. It's not pretty like an Accord. To me, like the cars of this class, the Camry's kind of gotten kind of weird. The Ford Fusion I always thought was attractive, but I don't think it's that great of a car. The Accord is by far the most attractive car, in my opinion, of this class. But I kind of don't mind this thing, at least after getting used to it. And even the beige, I never would have thought that I would have, you know, liked beige on a car as a color. But as far as beiges go, this is not the most geriatric one out there. As far as anything else to say about this car, the key fob's kind of nice, you know, and again, you've got some nice clicky keys. It's all black inside. Not a fan of black interiors. Take what you can get. And door panels, it is a lot of hard plastic, but it's pretty well disguised. I mean, the construction quality is good, and there's enough detail to the way that the interior of this car is built to sort of distract you from the cheapness of it. Again, like I said, my principle with these kind of economy cars, compact class cars, they're all essentially built out of the same cheap shit. It's just a matter of some are better put together than others. And this is one of the more well put together ones. I don't mean well put together like physically necessarily. Yeah, that's part of it. I mean like well put together conceptually. And then another note that you can't miss about this car is it's got the carpeted dashboard. Look at that. I kind of like it. I mean, it's very soft, noise deadening, probably contributes to the good acoustics of this car because it seems to have good acoustics in here. But as far as durability, I don't know, especially if like someone was smoking and using a lot of lotions and doing all the things that people do in their cars. You know, I don't know how well that would hold up. It's nice on a 9,000 mile car, I'll say that. But again, visibility, the sight lines, the ergonomics, the driving position, the driver's seat. One thing I will say, left elbow placement is not, it doesn't have a great left elbow spot. That's the only ergonomic dig that I can say against this thing. But I always, because I have really long legs, I always really struggle for thigh support. This car gives me great thigh support. And I also hate that newer cars, I can never seem to see out of them. This car, you can really see out of really easily, which is just, it's unusual for a newer car. So yeah, I felt like I had to give this little thing its due. So there you go, 2020 something Chevy Malibu. See if we got any kind of information on it. It's from Indiana, and it's Yeah, we don't know. We don't really know anything about it. It's probably like a 2023 if I had to guess. Bam. But yeah, I like it. I like it. And it's like, you know, this really is like